Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of 5 Minutes for Your Faith. Today is episode 6 and we are continuing this idea of examining ourselves, and today is going to be about examining our motives. And we are going to look at our focal passage today, which is Haggai chapter 1 verses 5 and 6. And so I'm going to put that up on the screen for you so that we can get right into this session for the day. And it reads this: "Now therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. You have sown much, but harvest little. You eat, but there is not enough to be satisfied. You drink, but there is not enough to become drunk. You put on clothing, but no one is warm enough. And he who earns wages to put into a purse with holes." So we see here today that there is a lot going on in this passage, and what he's trying to indicate here is several ways of pointing at the same issue, and that is, what is it that you do and why do you do it? And so looking into the passage, as I always do, I want to break it down into 4 parts. And the first part is this: examine yourselves. Now, I know that this is something that we've done over and over again here over the last couple days, but to just further the idea of examine yourself, let's put it this way. Examine yourselves should be understood in such a way that we need to put to charge and to scrutinize the consideration and condition of our hearts. We see here that God is continuing to make the point that you need to look at what you do. Why do you do it? How come you keep doing the same thing over and over again? And you're going to see what he's pointing out here. There's nothing ever satisfying enough for you. And there's a reason for that. We have to examine, why is it that we do what we do? And that's the reason why he says, consider your ways. Look at your heart. What does it want most? Because if you want anything other than what he has for you, you're never going to be satisfied. So let's move into the second portion of this passage, and that's this: you sow much, but harvest little. And the whole idea about sowing much and harvesting little is regarding this indictment upon the vanity and the emptiness of our pursuits that leave us with nothing to show for our lives. We all know what trivial pursuits are. We all know what it means to run after things that wound up being a waste of our time, that wound up leaving us what we thought we needed, what we thought we had to have. We ran after it and it left us empty still and still wanting more. This whole idea of you sow much but harvest little. You work and you work and you work and you toil and you run after and you sacrifice for, but it winds up being absolutely nothing like what it promised. That's what Satan does. He promises you short-term, easy shortcuts for something that God may have for you, but he wants you to go ahead of God, take control of the situation, and go get it yourself. You've wasted the potential of your purpose because you keep running after things you know won't fulfill you. So let's go into our third part, and that's this. The third section says, enough to be satisfied. And that is just indicating the spiritual reality that our satisfaction is rooted in God, and we are spiritually left insatiable. Or in other words, that we keep wanting more and we want more. Literally, what the language is implying here in the context that it's written in is like a person who has multiple lovers and still isn't satisfied. And that's honestly what we do daily. When we aren't loving God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, he is a love among many. And we go from one thing to the next, from one relationship, from one job, from one pursuit to the next to the next. It's like having multiple lovers. So we need to really be careful about what we give ourselves to. And that's the reason why I say again, we must examine our motives. Why do we do what we do? Who do we love and why? Or what do we love and why? What do we expect to get when we run after something or someone else other than him and his plans for us? So let's move into our last part, and that's this. The fourth point is purse with holes. And it's just clearly indicating a loss and waste of purpose, and the inescapable reality that action does not always equal obedience and promise fulfillment. In other words, think of trying to put money into a purse with holes in the bottom of it. You know exactly what's going to happen. You're going to lose everything out the bottom of it. Now, listen, it doesn't mean that the money that you lost is no longer worth anything. It means that the money that you used to have is of no use to you anymore because it's no longer in your possession. It's the same way with our lives. When we run after other things, when our motives cause us to go after other things that we are inclined to other than him and magnifying him and glorifying him, he'll let us go after that. And he will also let us come to the serious indications and realities that this is not going to satisfy me. Why? Because God didn't wire you, create you, form you to be satisfied in anything but him. So here's a couple closing thoughts as we examine our motives today, and that's this. We should be honest about where we are, what our motives are, and what our pursuits are. And secondly, if we find soul satisfaction and fulfillment and purpose in Him. In other words, what I'm saying is that you need to look at where your heart is, what you love most. Is it Him? Is it His purposes for you? And secondly, are you finding soul satisfaction in Him, not because of what He does for you so much, but who He is for you? Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow for another edition of 5 Minutes for Your Faith. Have a wonderful day.